What's up, sports fans? We're talking DFS 5-pack MLB night slate for baseball. Excited to run through this one with you. Excuse me, guys. I pressed the wrong button on the old internet machine here real briefly. It happens. You know how old people are with technology. I can't be expected to get stuff like this right every single time, or even half the time.
Yeah, seriously, right? Yeah, I mean, it happens to the best of us.
And me too. All right, here we go. All right. Definitely don't click that thumbs up button today because if I can't even press the right button, I don't deserve it. Let's talk about tonight's slate. Before we get into today's plays, give a shout out to our boys over at Drafters. Big ups to Mike Sims last night. I thought, without checking the Drafters score early, Mike, I thought I had this one, but went back and checked it. You got me. Bad choice at SP2 on my part. You're the winner. I'm the loser. You're good looking. I'm unattractive and all those things. So nice win, Mike. This is your second one over the last couple of runs. So way to go, bud. We'd love for some of you guys to come play with us in our daily Drafters draft. So come on over. There's a link to a Facebook group below. Join it, and you will get tagged in the post for drafts.
Yeah, excited to get back after it. If not this afternoon, tomorrow, but maybe we'll be able to squeeze one in today.
All right, guys. Membership's available at the website link below. Let's start with pitching, where our top choice at pitcher is Max by a pretty big amount here. Like Usain Bolt racing against me in a 100-yard dash type of margin for my eyes. Like there are other guys I can get on board with for SP2, but Max is just a lot better than the other options out there. San Fran's having a nice year, but they are beat up right now. They're missing a bunch of their better players. It's Max freaking Scherzer, who honestly, you take out what Vlad and Acuna, two of the best hitters in baseball, did to him, he has been dominant this season outside of that.
Yeah, and again, it falls back to it's Max freaking Scherzer. Feel good about him in every spot, especially if facing a Giants team that, one, better against lefties, two, missing a lot of their better hitters. This looks like a spot where Max is going to crush. And on a slate without a lot of good pitching options, as you mentioned, there's guys you can argue for SP2, but not SP1. Lock in Scherzer and move on.
It's one of those things, too, like even if he doesn't crush, even if he's just all right, his all right could still be the best pitcher on this slate.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt about that.
Because as we might have alluded to, he's Max freaking Scherzer.
That he is.
All right, man. So let's move over to offense and let's talk about. Honestly, if you're playing a cash lineup today, I know you never play cash, and I don't usually play cash when it comes to MLB. If I was though, the first guy I'm putting in my lineup is Giancarlo Stanton. First off, the Yankees are going to be chalk, like big time chalk, like huge chalk,
like Coors chalk.
Okay. One, he's kind of on fire. You mentioned that his exit velo on his double last night to start the game was as high as they go. Followed it up with just a measly 2 home runs. He loves left-handed pitching. He's 4 of 12 with 2 bombs off Hap. Hap is, what's the nicest way to put this? Not having the best stretch of his career right now. We'll put it that way. So it makes sense for him to be high owned today. And if I'm making a cash lineup, I'm afraid of his upside, and he's the first guy I plug in.
Yeah, he's a risky fade in tournaments. And one thing for me that really stuck out yesterday, aside from, I mentioned the double, one of the hardest hit balls I've seen all year. Then he homered. And then he was down 0-2 and homered again. And that is just like rare for Stanton. I'd have to look up. I mean, I have no idea how many 0-2 home runs he has. And this was either 0-2 or he got the count to 1 and 2. But I have a feeling like the majority of, especially a guy like his, home runs comes when he's up in the count.
Or at least not down at the very minimum. So That's a good sign for him because he's a strikeout-prone guy. And when he's off, he strikes out a lot.
Exactly.
All right, next up, let's take a look at Corey Dickerson for the Miami Marlins. So I think the big point for me on everybody else that we talk about is if you shift away from the Yankees-Twins game, any other stack or players you use are just not going to be that popular. And that's why we were thinking about, we don't love the Marlins offense. I mean, quite frankly, what's the love?
Right.
But they're facing Chichi Gonzalez today, and they're going to be low owned. Now, Chichi's not having a bad year, but he's not a good pitcher. We know darn well he can get lit up on any given day.
Yeah, he's not a good pitcher. I mean, he's not the worst. He's not the worst pitcher in the world, but he's not good. Miami's in a good under-the-radar spot. These guys have been decent lately, and, aside from Chichi, you get a weak Colorado bullpen. Dickerson's fairly priced at 4,100 in a hot streak right now, double-digit back-to-back games. Extra base hit, as you mentioned, in 3 straight games. A cog type in a stack that I like is an under-the-radar one in tournaments.
All right. So speaking of under the radar teams, we've mentioned it and we'll continue to mention it through all of our picks lately. You go away from the Yankees and the Twins, man. Like everybody else is coming in low. And check out Bo Bichette, who is way cheap. Like look at the rest of the guys on the Blue Jays around him. For something happened, and I know he had a little bit of a rough patch, which he's out of right now. He's really heating up. He had a bunch of games with one hit for about a week straight. Now he's followed it up with back-to-back multi-hit games. This guy's got big power, big speed, huge upside at this price. And to quote the wise poets at NBA Jam, he's heating up.
I remember like a week ago or so around there, his price was down to like 5K and you were talking, people think his price is down because he was like 5,800. Well, he's still pretty expensive. Well, he was still in play then. Now, he's 1,500 cheaper than he was like 2 weeks ago for no real reason. Starting to heat up again. I like it a lot here. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, the Blue Jays stack in general is one that I got in the back of my mind because one, they win tournaments, especially when they are not the chalk, and they're not going to be the chalk today. And if you guys know anything about playing in Chicago, come summertime, the ball pops at the White Sox park, right? Because it's a small. The dimensions of the U.S. Cellular, right?
Yep.
It's going to take me another 30 years before I stop calling it the old Comiskey or the new Comiskey. The ball just flies out of there. The dimensions are tiny. I think it's like 347 down the lines, like 375, 380 to the gaps, and like a straight up 400 to center. It's just small by major league ballpark comparisons.
Yes, it is. And I'm with you, man. We see this one eye to eye. Definitely have some interest in Toronto here.
Yeah, they hit home runs too, which never hurts.
Yeah, they do. And they steal some bases too.
Yes, they do. So the other team that it sounds like I like a little bit more than you, but you're not poo-pooing the points on this one. It's going to be the Astros against Erod. So I'm more of an Erod fan than you are, but he's got issues right now. Over the last month and a half, he's been not just struggling by his normal standards, like struggling by any Major League Baseball pitcher standards. So check out Yordan Alvarez, who's hot. 3,700 is cheap. And he's a lefty, so I think right away that will cut into his ownership a little bit, lefty on lefty. But Alvarez is fine against lefties, and Erod has actually got some subtle reverse splits.
Yeah, so like a team already in a decent spot that has big power, not getting a lot of love, and then you get a guy who's in the non-platoon advantage, not going to get any love here, and he's just way better than a $3,700 hitter. I mean, there's no reason he should be this price tag. I don't care, lefty on lefty, lefty on righty, lefty on both. It doesn't matter. He's too cheap. He's hot right now, as you mentioned. You like the Astros a little bit more than me, but I can certainly get on board with some of these pieces. And Alvarez is at the top of the list.
And I will make a Bellman point on the Astros. They actually have good hitters.
Yeah, very good hitters. I was thinking about this when we talked about Bregman at the end of our members only video. You can make a case they've got like a few A players, which is most teams don't have.
No, they don't. Most teams have, at best one or two of them, and they got a couple that you could at least put up there. If you want to give them an A- or even a B+, that's fine. They have good players.
Right.
And I think sometimes, and I will say that I'm probably more – so we all evaluate DFS a little bit differently. I think sometimes, for me, I get too oriented on the matchup, and then you would be the flip side of that, and that's where sometimes you have to meet in the middle, and you're like, well, I like this guy because he's good. But I'm like, well, he's good, but he's facing Clayton Kershaw in his prime, so it's going to be a tougher spot. You're like, yeah, but he's a lot better than the scrub you're talking about just because they're facing a scrub. And you meet in the middle, and the difference here is like the Astros players can ball, and sometimes just because you're in a good match, it doesn't make you good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you 100% on all that.
You can put me out there against Chichi Gonzalez. I haven't hit a baseball in 15 years. I'm going to strike out on 3 pitches. It doesn't matter how bad Chichi is.
Truth.
So that's about it for today, guys. We appreciate y'all watching here. Click that thumbs up button. Sorry about the kink of the technology in there earlier. That was not even the technology fault. That was user error and old people with technology.
No one's sweating it. Thanks a lot, guys.